right, guys, welcome back to the Guardians Insider podcast. We're here to talk about episode 3, which just dropped on PureFlix. It's called Jack, and I'm your host, Chason Laing. I'm the showrunner, writer, director, and other stuff of the show. And I have returning guests today, so it's going to be really, really fun. In no particular order, we've got Chato, who plays Chivo in the show. Welcome back again. Thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And then we've got the notorious Willie Mellina, who plays Maul, back in the house.
Hey, whoop-de-whoop.
You would say whoop-de-whoop. The scary.
I don't know where that came from. It's late. I'm tired. I'm happy to be here, though.
All right. Returning guest, the amazing Sheran Keyton, who is the AD on the show and a bunch of other stuff, but definitely the number one go-to person. So thanks for being back on here.
Thank you. Hey, everybody.
And then final guest, Alethea Corado Santizo is back with us playing. She plays Amy in the show. Thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Oh gosh, it's an honor. The only thing almost as good as watching the show is getting to talk about it. So I'm really happy to be here.
Fantastic. Well, so everybody just watched. This is the middle episode for this micro season, so to speak, and a lot happened in this episode. A lot of stuff. So we're going to dive in there, see what we can talk about in this short amount of time, and we're going to do our best. So to begin, we've kind of have to begin with this opening sequence, which is one of my favorite sequences for a lot of reasons, and there's a lot of things to talk about. So I'm going to kind of be passing between all of you guys, but that's the hangar sequence is what we called it when we were doing the production. And we've got just a big epic sequence of talking. They want Chato to jump out of a plane, or Chivo. They want Chivo to jump out of a plane, and we got that scene. We got the assassins shooting in the plane. We've got just so much. So I guess to begin, Willie, we'll just come to you. You showed up the day of production when we were filming that scene, and just kind of walk me through your experience of putting that sequence together. And then now that you've seen it with the rest of the world, tell me kind of how did it play out the way you thought it was, and what are your thoughts on it?
Like a lot of this, and we're talking about the hangar, obviously, like a lot of the show, there's so much flashback. And so sometimes for me, that was tricky, trying to compartmentalize and where is this and where is that. And so I'm sure I was pretty annoying on set, saying, okay, now walk me through this. Where are we at here? Where are we at there? But once again, to go back to what I mentioned last week, locations, I just thought, what in the heck, man? Here we are. And it was so weird because I just recently before that had noticed that neighborhood, and then sure enough, we're there. So that was really neat. But I think that's one of the best parts about this entire show is that the locations were incredible. I mean, they were just like godsends, all of them. And they really matched a lot of the writing and what it needed. The writing called for, some high stakes, some beautiful locations, some powerful, cool places. And it was delivered. Come on, somebody.
Absolutely.
But yeah, with the timing, the flashbacks and feeling the presence and all that, that was interesting. And sometimes I thought, I'm not exactly sure what's happening here, but I trusted you, and so I just tried to do what it was. But yeah, this was one of the coolest. This was one of the coolest moments I thought of the entire season. Just this whole transaction, this whole deal, and I love the way that it starts. There's brevity, there's calm, not calm, that's the wrong word. But some of that comical dialogue going on, and some of the goofy that Joe Chato killed, that really sets it up nicely.
Yeah, I definitely at the premiere, the first time we see you in the sequence, because it's kind of like this slow thing that's just building as far as pressure goes. And then I was just so excited because when the assassin kind of falls over, revealing you standing there, like there's these people right in front of you, like, oh no, he's done, and it was just like, yeah, there you go. See, we got him. They didn't see it coming, and bam, got him. And just again, I love, we're seeing a little bit of a different side of Maul, because this is technically the first major scene that we're having between you and Jack, and the way that played out. And so it was really interesting to watch, because I love, at least my take on it is, you can't, as an audience person, tell what the motivations of either of them are, you know, is in that moment, like where we don't know where you're going, and it's just, and you play it that way. We don't know what you're wanting to do, and we're, you know, obviously you feel dread, but you did a great job with that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, man, it was a lot of fun, and I agree. And it was really interesting with the way that we worked together through, you know, it was so early. So that the fact that it was our first major time for the audience to see, it was really great, because that's kind of how it was, you know, that's really how it was. And in our world, in our working world. And so there wasn't all this whole like, oh, hey, I know you did it. I mean, really, and some of that physicality and that stuff, you know, we're right there on the day just jamming. And so that was, I feel like some of that kind of, honestly, I feel like some of that might have read. I don't know. I was the audience member when I watched it the first time, but it's a little different take. But yeah, the dialogue and the way that it was chopped up, and then the way that to see how it plays together, once again, really, definitely like a little bit of a Christopher Nolan effect. In this sequence, it was that way for me.
I'll definitely take that compliment.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you paid for it, so I might as well. I just got Venmo $200, so I gotta earn it, you know. Wait, hang on, let's make sure it went through. Okay, yeah, we're good. Yeah.
You bring up a great little segue there, because we filmed this in a very interesting way. Definitely not the norm. Normally, you come into a scene, you try to get coverage, you know, and you just trying to grab it. And then Sheran, you were there, and what the audience doesn't know is that this was day 17. No, is that right? 17, something crazy like that.
Yeah,
in a row of filming. We had been going all day, every day, no breaks. For 17 days. And this was the last sequence that we had to do. Like, we wrapped the show. There was one pickup day that happened after this, but this was it. We wrapped the show that night after filming this sequence. It was, I don't even remember how late it was. That was some ridiculous thing. But Sheran, it'd be great to hear from you on how did we do that?
I think that really it was, again, just about the buy-in. Everyone was so 100% invested. We knew that it was late just because, you know, we had a couple of, you know, quick meal breaks and stuff. So we knew that time was passing, but we were genuinely having a great time. We were getting the work in. Everyone was super invested. And I really think that it was like running a race where you know that you're ahead, you know that, you know, all of the things that represent whatever that is right on your heels, but you kind of keep pushing because you can see the finish line and you just don't stop. And I that last day, that's what it felt like. It felt like we were like, we've done it. Like, we have 16 days behind us. Now we just got to make it. And I think that we did. But again, I think that all of those elements that we've spoken about before and spoken about, you know, in the last podcast were very present, even more so then. It was the positive attitudes of the work that we were creating. We all love you, but we were in it because we knew that this was going to be something big. We knew that looking at this script, this story was incredible. We knew that some lives were going to be changed. We knew that we were going to kick some doors open at PureFlix that would never get closed again. Like, it's going to be you know, a thing. And so it pushed us. I'm sorry. It drug us kicking and screaming.
It did. Yeah, I was going to say, like, and the only way we really did it, because again, we were having to film it so fast. We had one night at this hangar. Like, that was all we had to do this.
Right.
And we had shot list that was going into, you know, way double letters. I don't even remember where it ended. And we had to film, and there was no wasted shots. Like, there's no like extra shot we didn't use or whatever. Like, everything was in there down to the letter. And we got it all.
Like,
and the fact that
it was insane.
It was insane. But it ended up, I love it. It turns out really, really well, the way that the whole thing, even now, I know how we did it. And at the same time, I'm like, how in the world did we do that? Where it just plays so nicely. But yeah, like,
it was all the puzzle pieces. It was all the puzzle pieces. Like, by that time, everyone had really started clicking. Nathan, shout out to Nathan Blaze.
Absolutely.
audio genius. You know, he and I were literally simultaneously calling out what the next shot was. It was like, yep, got it, got it. It was like, it was like the most incredible teamwork ever, really. Really,
Yeah.
it was. And the cast made it worth it all. Like watching them work tirelessly into the night just really made it worth it all.
Yeah, nobody ever like got tired or just, you know, like started falling off. Like everybody kept it up until it was done.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
impressive to watch.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm really
And
pleased.
there may be something to it, Chase, and maybe this is the way it's supposed to happen. Because for all of us who've been on set in whatever capacities, when we do have that downtime or that lull time where we're like sitting waiting for our next call to set, you do have to fight harder to keep your energy level up. And
Yeah.
I know for me, I get lost in my phone or my text, and I'm just like, ugh.
Okay, wait
Well,
a minute. You mean that y'all are on film sets that you have breaks?
Oh, and that I meant to mention that too. Yeah. When you were talking about the, 16 days, 17 days and how hot it was and this location was this discomfort. But when you're going, man, what's next? Okay, let's talk about that. Let me wrap my head around the timing and the sequence of this. Okay, this is after I've already met that person. We're about to do that. It's just go. And that really helps because the opposite, I mean, out of every episode I've ever done, is huge, stupid, silly money where they're just throwing money in trash cans away down to, some like The Chosen. I mean, I've never been on something that moved that much. And there's a beauty to it. It helps, it keeps you engaged. It keeps you locked in. Whereas you're never getting, like Sheran said, let me go sit in a trailer for 4 hours. Let me go eat. My blood pressure goes, and then you got to get back in it,
Yep.
That sounds like an amazing experience.
When you get paid silly overtime and you didn't work hard at all, yeah, that's a blessing maybe you get it. But it's miserable. It's kind of miserable though. Like when you're just sitting around, busy hands are happy hands. And that's one of the reasons that this was such a special, and the audience, I hope that they can get something out of this. I hope it's valuable to them, but like to know when you're watching something like this was a hustle. This was a jam. We were sweating. We were working hard, and it was a positive vibe. And and there wasn't just food trucks sitting around and everybody just lavishly. You want to know that you're watching some people that were working hard and they were getting cut and scrapes, and everybody was jamming, and I was blessed. I was truly blessed and encouraged to get to do it because it was very different than your typical project, whether it's a short film, a commercial, an episodic, a feature. It really was set apart in the way that we were just, and we needed to be that. It needed to be that for how much you were trying to shoot and the amount of time that you had.
Yeah. Well, and for the audience to understand, obviously production costs money. And for this one, it's a very, very tight budget to make this all work because, we wanted to give PureFlix something that had a great, a big scale. But we had very limited episodes to do it and then very limited amount of time and resources to do it. And, I'm a big believer in not going into like debt to make my productions happen. And so, that on the one hand, that's great. At the same time, that means you're very confined. And so, it's not because I just love necessarily running and gunning, although I'll put a note to that in for a second, but it's a necessity. It's like we have, this is all the time we have. And so we got to just steal this while we have it, go for it. And we're knocking out so many pages so quickly, even through intense sequences. Because we have to, and that's the only way I can really describe it is that you don't get to come back tomorrow. Like this is all you got. So you better do it now. You better get it done. And it's going to be a whirlwind and we'll sleep when it's over, and it's that kind of mentality. At the same time, I was blessed. As soon as this production ended, which I said this on the first podcast, I took my wife the very night, like 6 hours later after we were done filming Willie, I took my wife and drove them to Arkansas to be with the in-laws. And I slept. I woke up the next morning, drove back to Texas to start editing because we had like crazy timeline, right? And I drove back home and got there, and And while I was there, I got called out on another job because, yeah, you have to keep working, right? You can't just stop your life. And so I went out on another film shoot where I was not really, I was doing like BTS and like artwork and things like that while the show was being filmed. And it was going very slow. And it was just, they were taking the time and they were spending all day. Like they had like this like 2-page sequence that was at this conference table and they were talking, and we were there for 8 hours for that. And I was like, oh, we're still here for this one thing. And I was like, as on one hand, I was like, this is amazing. Like nobody's looking stressed. Nobody's running around. Like there are chairs on set. People are sitting in them. It's unbelievable. And then at the same time, I got to be honest, like 4 hours in, I was like, I am going to lose my mind. Like, what's going on? Like, let's do, let's film something else. Let's move.
Double-edged sword for sure.
Yeah, I can see that being a thing. So maybe there's a great balance. I don't know. Well, hopefully we'll find out for season 2 of Guardians, but we got to get back to the show. Joe, Chato, I want to get over there and talk about this sequence with you, because we haven't heard from you yet, and you have a great performance in the scene. I love the comedy at the beginning, and then it gets really intense really fast, and we end up with you there in a doctor's office where you are bleeding out, and man, there's some range there. So kind of tell me about like just the performance from how did that play out? How did you feel it played out, and kind of what did you bring to it?
Well, you know what, Jason, just going back to the hustle and bustle of how fast we were shooting, I think that, at least for me, let me just say, that's my favorite way to do it. Because back to what you were saying, Willie, I mean, when you're just sitting there on set all day, and then after lunch, after a break, you get trucked back on set, and then you say your 2 or 3 lines, and then that's a wrap. It's like, there's just no joy in that, at least not for me. So to you, what you're asking, Chason, as far as, the switches and the back and forth to it, really a lot of it was playing off of your energy, man, and what was going on in there, the intensity of, look, by the time we were at the doctor's office bleeding, look, we've been bleeding sweat all day long, and hot. It was already at the end of the night, everyone's tired, so it wasn't too much of a stretch to pretend to be dying at that moment, so yeah. But like going back to being well written, well sequenced, well shot, very well organized. This good speed over here, keeping us all in order. It's easy. I mean, and you know what? And going back to the no easy thing, it's really easy to be able to play what Chivo did, playing next to the other actors in the show. Because all I'm doing is just echoing back what they're giving, and I mean, they're throwing fantastic performances this way. It's not that hard just to echo back, what they're giving. So, the hustle bustle of it all, the fantastic pace that it was all under, the fact that everyone was committed to the show and everyone really wanted to be there, wasn't hard. Wasn't hard at all.
Yeah. Well, I do want to just throw this your way, because one, the way that you play that character at the whole airplane hangar, and before that in the previous episode, but like all of us here, you are so stinking likable. Like there's no one in the audience that watches this character and doesn't immediately like you, which is both intentional. Like I want that to be the case, but it's also something that you bring to the character is just like, I mean, your face, your everything that you do is just so likable that the audience just wants you to win. And I remember in the premiere when you do get hit, like there's some serious, we traumatized a few people there with that whole thing. And of course, in this episode, we leave you bleeding out on a table, and we don't know what, are you gone? We don't know yet in this episode. And so I really think that we kind of did that. But I did also, the second thing, before I let other people talk, one of my favorite lines from you of the whole show is when you're bleeding out in the back of that car, and you're like, I told you I didn't want to jump. I love it so much, man. I love it.
Look, man, Chivo at the end of the day, he wants what he wants, and so it's a bullet to the gut. At least he has to jump out of the place.
Well, it tells us, that one line tells us a lot about the character too, that you can be here shot, bleeding out, and rather than like seeing fear and gasping, Saving Private Ryan style, your brain was on that. And it just tells us, that one line tells us a lot about your character, which is very interesting. There's like a calming element to that. Anyway, I don't know, but yeah, it was a great performance from you. And just to see the range from the beginning of the sequence to all the way through the doctor's office, I mean, we're seeing a lot of stuff from you, and it was great.
It's fun, Chason. It's fun, and I said it, I think, in the last podcast. More than anything, we're witnessing. So it's just fantastic to pull those experiences on, how I've experienced that or how I've seen that in my life, and just pulling from those, and just letting Chivo live those, and it's beautiful to be able to share God that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to turn course, and again, guys, if I go somewhere and you want to talk about something, just jump in there. You have
okay, I'm jumping in. I
jump
gotta
in.
say,
See,
man,
I was going to take off, so go for it.
The end of the airplane, the hangar sequence, right, where David swoops in and pulls Jack out and saves him from Mal. At that point, when I saw it in the premiere, I couldn't help it. I turned over to Grant, who plays David, and made him give me a high five, because that was rocking. I mean, that whole moment where David just pulls Jack, and then I was like, wait, what? That was one of the highlights of the series for me. And I, like I said, I got a lot of little brothers, and they were all they were like, yeah. So
awesome.
Just, oh man, obviously everyone's scared about what's going on. We got man dying here, we got this, we got that. That moment, oh, that was fire. I love that.
Awesome.
Yeah, and kudos to you, Chason, on the location also. That was a really neat experience for me. I never knew people had airplane hangars in their backyards. That was bizarre. These people just had a runway in their backyard, and airplanes, and their neighbors would just taxi up and down and wave at each other for their planes. Yeah. So really great job on that. And by the way, those aerial shots, man, holy cannolis.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Most of those I did not make those, but I'll throw it out there. I've done them before for some of my projects, but this one we didn't have time to do a lot of aerials. But yeah, they do look good. On the hangar, I will just throw this out as a fun little tidbit, just for twofold things. One, in the writing of the show, I'm very strategic, and so I knew access. If I have access to locations that I know, I can get in here and I can do that. So I knew that I had access to that. So that's how that ended up at this hangar. That was kind of part of the story elements, as I was like, okay, once you can get in there and it's good, then yeah, it makes it easy to write. Otherwise, I would never have written that scene in there, because I've tried it at other airports and it is extremely hard. The FAA does not make it easy, nor does anybody else. Like, everybody's ready to sue. It's not great. So that one was great. But also I did have to promise the people that owned the hangar that I would go up and film for them, which I did. And they're aerobatic pilots, so there was some flipping in circles and just rolling, and I actually made a video about it. But yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, they just wouldn't, the evening they go out there and like, hey, you want to go and just go a couple 100 miles an hour and do some flips and stuff? Yeah, let's go. And they just take off. So I don't do that usually. So it takes a little bit
for me.
But yeah, all right. So I'm going to kind of jump here a little bit to the end of this episode. Yeah, all the way to the very end, the final scene of this episode, if we can, because it's got you in it, Alethea. And we have a very interesting moment there where Jack has come back from his little trip there. It's been a little bit of time, and we see him try to rekindle whatever it is relationship he was building with you. And then it ends with this little coffee cup on the ground that says Jack, which I love that. Of course, I did write it, but I still like that. I was just curious, what is your we filmed a lot in that cafe where you work. It's the Blue Butterfly Cafe there in Fort Worth. Great people.
Yeah, gorgeous place. Oh my gosh.
Great people. And we filmed a lot of stuff there. And so I thought we should hear from you kind of on just filming in that location, that experience, but also like going from in episode 1, you're going out on your first date to now you're seeing someone else. Shame on you. You're seeing someone else and you just leave him with this Jack cup. So just, give me your thoughts on that.
Well, okay, first of all, as far as the location goes, yeah, that was interesting because that was a whole day in the cafe, and that was an enjoyable experience. Everyone was so nice. Everything was so chill. It's a beautiful location. The extras were incredible, and I don't know, I really, really liked the crowd we had. Everyone was so nice.
Oh yeah.
And so getting to do that was a lot of fun. Yeah, in the first episode, I'll tell you what, I couldn't believe I got to open the series. I was the first person you saw. I was like, wow, is that? But when just a little fun side thing, when you see me talking to that girl, she gives me her order, and I say, okay, that'll be $500.
Oh, I know. I almost left the audio in there. It's so random.
Yeah, just to make her laugh. And so that every time I see that, I'm like, that'll be $500. Nobody knows what that is, but it cracks me up. Anyway, but yeah, so with Amy, it was really like I said in the last one, it was really important to me to play somebody that had enough to her that she could actually be a driving force in the series when you're dealing with so many high stakes. I mean, you got people getting shot, you got bad guys with magical powers. I mean, what is this girl, right? So I really enjoyed a lot of the cafe scenes brought a really calm current. I mean, the blue helped, right? It's beautiful and provided nice pacing throughout. But yeah, in the first episode, we've got the date and we've got cute things going on. And then, Jack leaves for a long time. And that was difficult to me because, again, I love superheroes. And to me, like, the Jack character is like a superhero. So I was like, why would I not be like, why would I step away from him? But so that's, I hope that plays out in the scene when we're talking and then we break up. I'm very stilted almost, and that was an intentional choice, and I hope it comes off that way because there was a lot that I had underneath in the surface, and I wanted to be really angry at him, and I wanted to, I wanted Amy to get to snap at Jack for treating her that way, because she sees something to him. She sees something that is more than the people that goes, that she sees. So then I wanted to have that undercurrent. So she's very cold and she's very sharp. And I just wanted to try to push him away really quickly before he hurt me again.
Yeah. In your mind, when you were playing that part, you tell Jack in the story that, you're seeing someone else that comes in there. And I'm just curious, when you were playing it, was that real? Were you really seeing someone else?
No, that was a complete and total lie. I made it up on the spot, and yep, that was it. Because if you're hurting, you just want them to stop and get away and back up and let you deal with it. Yeah. Sorry, Sheran, you were going to say something?
No, I was just going to ask you. So we know that when you were obviously mad at him, that's the way you chose to play it. But I thought it was very interesting, even in the times when you all were amicable, how you didn't choose the route of the stereotypical Hallmark moments of cheesiness where we're falling in love. And I know that a lot of that was Chason's writing, but tell me about, or tell the audience about your choices and how you chose who she was in those moments, because it's really easy as the romantic lead to fall into those kind of, I don't want to say pitfalls, because sometimes it's warranted, but anyway.
Right. Of course. Well, yeah, like you said, Chason's writing really sharp. Chason, you can write action, you can write romance. What is this? I mean, my goodness. But
it's really, on the writing, let's be honest here. It's easy to write if I'm Meghan Markle and I'm going to write something, not to throw, but I'm going to go there. You want it to be over dramatic and over like, oh, look at me, woe is me, victim, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that in real life, I don't think that that's necessarily how all women are, for sure. And I think that really people are very self-protected and they don't want to get hurt. And that's the raw thing. And I think, when you think about people that way, it kind of changes the way that they would approach something like this. So for me, that's why it feels way more real. Plus, I am married. I've been married for quite a while now, and I know how my wife would be with me, and it would not be that just dynamic performance. It would be something very sharp and very quick, and you would be like, oh yeah, ooh, that's probably not great. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. But go ahead, Alethea. I kind of cut you off there.
No, that's fine. Yeah, so you talk about the way I played the character. And again, like I said in the last one, I wanted to be somebody worthy. You know, if you were just playing the girl, some sappy girl, it's not worth it. It's not interesting. And even though, I was honored to get to play such a pivotal role with that was comparatively small. So I had to try to put a lot into that to make things turn. And also, I'm representing the girls in this show. I'm an action girl, and I love action, and I want girls to watch this show and love it as much as I do. So I wanted to be somebody that you could believe could someday be a superhero herself. I wanted to bring that kind of dignity to the role. And so, yeah, somebody that didn't just fall over herself all over the place, but was strong and stood up for herself. And somebody that, someday, if the right time comes, then she can handle herself.
Nice. Can I ask a David question, even though he's not on this?
Sure.
Because that was one of the things that when I was watching his interaction with you in an earlier episode, Alethea, he was very kind of invasive and kind of, I don't even know all of the adjectives. He was very much kind of in your face and kind of in your space. So this is a question for both you and Chason. Chason, in writing this character, did you intentionally write him to be kind of obnoxious, or is this Grant's take on the character? And then the same with you, Alethea. What do you think your character was thinking? Because this is a new relationship, and all of a sudden there is this other person that's consistently there.
The third wheel.
Yeah.
You first, Chason.
For my part, I know what scene you're talking about in episode 1 where he interrupts the first date and kind of comes in. I think, the Grant character, which Grant plays, Grant Davis, the amazing Grant Davis, plays David. David's character is struggling almost in like a fatherly way of he is trying to protect those around him and do his job. And he thinks that he knows what everybody's supposed to be doing. And he's trying to almost like guide a rebellious, I viewed it like a rebellious son, even though he's not his son. And I think his intentions are very clear. Like, he does not want Jack's character to be hurt. And he knows for him, if Jack follows through with what he wants here, which is this relationship with Amy, inevitably he thinks it's going to end up with pain. And so he's trying to actually protect Jack in this manner and pull him out of it. Now, as far as the way he's being, there's one thing when you have a dad who tells like dad jokes and you get that and you're like, this is so cheesy, right? I think there's a little bit of that there, but then there's also a little bit there where I don't think in my mind that David's character cares about Amy at all here, if that makes sense. And the opening sequence where he interrupts that date, he's like, I'm going to be nice to you, but this is also almost like a patronizing level of nice, because I don't really like, if he never saw you again, I would be good with that. Like, that's what I want is because it's good for you, which you don't know that, and good for him. We lost Chato, but he'll be back. Hopefully he'll be back. But anyway, for the audience, he just disappeared off our screen. But he'll probably jump back in here. But that's the way I kind of approached David, is I wanted him to have that care. He's actually doing you both a service in what he's doing there. He just doesn't care enough to make it flowery and really nice and all that kind of. He's not going to explain it to you because he knows you're not going to get it anyway. And so he just kind of does the get you out of the situation. So that's the dynamic there that he has, at least from episode 1. That's where he has the his dynamic with you.
Well, yeah, there's obviously we're dealing in context of the episodes that are currently out, right? So I feel like when it comes to what Amy was dealing with Grant's character David in the first date. I mean, I honestly just confused more than anything else. Super weird situation. You're on a date with a cute guy. Some guy shows up and says, "Hey, this guy needs to get out of here," and you're just like, "What?" Like, is he a criminal? What, like, what is this, his dad? What? So I think, as far as him like being so brusque and uncaring, I mean, I think it just was like Amy was just like, okay, and then just had to move forward from there because things happen. But personally, as Alethea, David's like one of my favorite characters in the show. He's always stealing the spotlight, so I couldn't get too mad at him personally. I was like, you're awesome, man.
Nice. With the few minutes that we have left, I got a couple other things. I know if you guys have any questions, just kind of get ready. But Willie, I would like to just have a moment with you in this sequence. We talked about the hangar a little bit, and we saw a little bit of you kind of go over and kind of feel the space with your hand and so on. And then we saw that in episode 2 against the wall at the end of it. And then in episode 1, your opening sequence there, you're kind of coming in and again, like feeling like the space, and we kind of see you, and it's very intriguing. Like that's a thing now we've established by episode 3. Like this is something that you're doing. So I'm just curious on, how did you visualize that? And then as far as, seeing it play out now, put together, where it's part of the story, just kind of what are your thoughts on, what your character is, and how do you kind of play something like that? That's a very, like it's not like saying, okay, we're going to pretend that you're a baseball player. You're playing something that is, I don't really have anything to describe to you what's going on. So I was just curious, how did you kind of prepare and think about that kind of stuff and put that together? And how do you think it played out?
Well, first of all, I thought it played out really nicely. I don't think we beat the audience over the head with it, but I think we give it to them enough. One of my favorite things about this entire project, and you're right, and to go back to it, I'm not trying to blow smoke, but a lot of times in faith-based projects, the filmmakers assume that their audiences are not intelligent, and that is an understatement. So I feel like we led them to the information, but didn't beat them over the head with it. So I thought that was a smart deal. As far as my take on it, excuse me, I almost tried to approach it like, okay, so obviously there's a source of knowledge there. It's almost like a third eye. It's almost like call it demonic, call it angelic, call it a God sense, like that extra sense that your average person doesn't have. But I almost thought of it as though, was Mal a really good dude? And he turned. Was Mal like them, a protector, and something happened and he tried to get power, and so I wanted to try to toy with the idea of, obviously I'm not living in the light. My character's not living in the light. He wants bad things to happen. But with that idea of like, I don't know, it's an interesting aspect of it. Like the fallen angel, if you will. So I thought that there were times when I was doing something or shooting something and I couldn't wrap my head around it. And I knew that we were moving really fast, and I'm thinking, wait, how is this gonna fit in here? Like, where is it gonna fit in the cut, in the edit? And then watching it, I was like, dadgummit, Chason, man, jeez, dude, like. And I know that obviously when you have it here, okay. But I like to try to force myself to, build the assembly without the instructions, right? Like the dad who's trying to, and as I know you're a dad, you try to build the thing without looking at the 71 steps. But there was just really interesting. And some of the times it was really neat. But once again, I think it really easily could have been like, oh, okay, we get it. And it wasn't that. There was different locations where it had it, and there was as accented moments, and the music, you know, it was all about, you know, the shot and the coverage and the music, just really the musical composition that you laid on top of it really played to it in a strong way. Yeah.
Well, I was really excited. On the one hand, I'd never seen something done quite like this. It's actually extremely simplistic in its nature. It's not overly, you know, marvelized or something like that. It's extremely simple what you actually do and how that plays out. And I was really curious on how that would work. And so in the first episode, it's the first time we kind of see you show up. Well, it is the first time we see you show up, but also it's the first time, like when you go into the auto store and you walk into the room and you're just kind of lurking your way into the space. And the way I always envisioned it in my head is almost like a bloodhound, like you're just taking your time, you're following this trail. And I didn't know if it was going to work, because that's another gamble when you're writing something. Is like, you could write it, is the audience going to get it? Because you don't say anything. It's all your actions, which I love, but it's like, is it going to work? And I remember showing it. I had actually had a private screening at my house before the premiere just to make sure it worked, because nothing worse than having a premiere, right, if it doesn't work. And that first episode comes to an end and everyone was like, oh no. And like, they were all with you. They understood. If I said describe it, I don't think they could have done it just yet, but they knew, like, okay, something is going on here. And I think that I really am excited to see not only where the season is going to go with this, but also like what future seasons could do with this, because it's opening up this new world of both there's a supernatural element happening right now, but it's actually here at the same time as whatever you're doing. I feel like when I watch you're seeing something that the audience doesn't get to see. You're feeling something that the audience doesn't get to feel, yet we can see it happen on your face. And by now, for this being the third time that we've seen it, I'm like, yeah, I think it works very effectively. And it was really fun to watch that. And yeah, even when you're filming it and you don't know where it's going to land, you know, for me, it lands perfectly. It works really, really great. So,
yeah. So go ahead. Finish that thought, please. Sorry.
I love the little smirk in this episode, episode 3. At the end of it, you kind of have this little smirk, and then you step out of the frame and it cuts to black, and it's like, oh yeah, like he knows what's up.
Yeah. Some of it is like, okay, I get it. But that one where I walk actually into the hallway and I see the chair and I walk through there, and then obviously the officer comes. That was tricky. He was not there. He was either there earlier or at a later date. I don't know if you went back, but you were explaining that to me, and so it only made so much sense. And it made the trailer as well, but it's one of my favorite shots of the entire deal is you know, the element that we're talking about. I think without putting our finger on it, without having to explain it, we don't need to, but the element of understanding, perspective, the ability to see, you know, through whatever this is, this special instinct, this special sense that we have. But it's not even the hand. You shot my arm, and it made the trailer. Yeah. And I was like, that was such an interesting deal, because it's all about the tone. It's all about the music. You know, we could literally probably close our eyes and not even see what's happening in that moment. And we could feel it, like, oh, the suspense is building. This is a bad dude. He's got a little special strength here. He's able to see what's going on without being, you know, where all that stuff's happening. And then there's just the shot of the arm. And I was like, it was just a really powerful shot. And it's a really powerful arm, if we're going to just talk about it. Yeah. I think when everybody sees that arm, they're like, that can do some damage. And I think we're going to get to see that arm do some damage. Yeah. No, I'm kidding. I'm obviously kidding. But no, it's smart. It's super smart, man. And I'm grateful to be a part of it. I really hope that this thing can catch some traction and some wind, because there's so many things about it. We've gone back to Marvel, and I mentioned Christopher Nolan. There's so many elements of it. And to know that it was, you know, it wasn't like sit around, okay, let's figure this out, and okay, we're gonna have we're going to have a tech scout and walk through it with the script and have hair and makeup over here, ask questions if you need to, have our first AD make Sharon. Okay, does everybody understand? Are we on the same page? There's none of that. It was let's go, ask questions later, okay, stunts on the day, did it, and obviously having Alethea there and so many great people. And I know you guys brought some stunt teams in. Everybody was willing to just go and jam and serve. There was as much God in the way that it was handled and the way that the set was run as anything that I've been a part of. And it wasn't talked about. It wasn't sung about. And I'm hoping that changes next time. I really want to sing some hymns before we start.
I mean, I'm not going to stop you. It's free set. I mean, somebody starts singing. Now, you might make Nathan, our sound guy, really mad, but.
Oh, man. That guy, man, just a trooper, just really, really cool. So, so really grateful for all the work that's already been done and hoping that it's proven fruitful and glorified in a special way, as it deserves to be, man.
Well, I appreciate it. I definitely hope so as well. And I did kind of want to just shout out, just maybe, I don't know. I never said anything about it on set. I was curious if anybody ever got it, but when as a faith show, you're coming to a lot of people who have faith, who probably attend church fairly regularly. And it's very common where people raise their hands, in the service. And in this show, there's a raising of hands. It just means something maybe a little bit more. And I think there's an element to that where it's very comfortable. People are used to that. And yet somehow, and you do it this way, and it's like, wait a minute. And I like that. Like, wait a minute. If the good guys do this, do the bad guys do this? Like, what's going on with that? So yeah, well, anyway, guys, we have to wrap it up. Do you have
can you answer a quick question though?
Absolutely.
It's a quick question for you. So relatives to the premiere brought their 10-year-old autistic son. And after sitting, first of all, he sat, which was very uncommon. He sat that entire time engaged. So kudos to everyone. But when he left, he asked us if James was Jesus and Willie was the devil. And he asked, so it's funny, Willie, that you said that it could be that Maul was good at one point, in air quotes, good, and then like the fallen angel, because that's exactly what he thought. And he said probably before he went bad, he was their friend. They were all, cool, like in heaven. And then he did something and he got sent away. So now he's like wrathful. And like he had this whole thing that he pulled out of watching that and related to Bible stories and things that he's familiar with. So Chason, for everybody who wants to know, and this kid, because he came up with that. So I was like, yeah, that's what it is. I just agreed. I was like, yeah, that's what it is. But for all the grown-ups who want to know, is there some relation to those characters and really strict biblical references?
Well, I think on the one hand, I'm going to let this season play out, because we're only on episode 3, and I'm going to let people kind of see that and think about that maybe a little on their self. On the James side, yes, he does look like Jesus, in some capacity, with that beard and that hair. Which, I always find it, hilarious because, he does look like that and so on. Now, when I originally wrote the character Jack, from Breakers, which was the prequel season, he is not Jesus in that show. Like he's Jack, he's a normal guy and he's doing stuff. So I would think that, for me, no, I mean, Jack has definitely got some struggles here in a maybe not messianic sense. However, I think that the things that they're messing with are clearly light and dark, clearly supernatural in nature. Clearly, there is a battle amok. And I'm sure as we keep going with this season, but also in the future, there's a lot of those elements to the Maul character, where he's come from. Like we haven't addressed that yet in this episode. And kind of where we're going is also kind of left open. Like, and I think down the line, a lot of these answers will be a lot more clear. But for today, we're just going to say, Maul and Willie are a bad dude. You're a bad man.
bad dude.
Baddest bad, ever bad.
Hey, Willie, you'll
Yeah.
enjoy knowing that the mom also said to me that the bad guy, that's what she called you, the bad guy is just like in real life. When the devil comes for you, he comes very handsome and tricks you. I was like, okay. You're the handsome bad guy. So I was like, okay. It's like
well,
grand compliment on your acting and everything.
oh man. Well, I'm hoping that all the work does not go unnoticed on everybody's parts, and I'm sure was grateful to be a part of it from day one.
Yeah.
When Chason first sent it my way, I thought, man, this is special, this is different, this is cool, and we haven't even touched on it once, but I just love the black screen with the Bible verse. You know, it's not here, it's just boom. And then, and there's a couple lines that maybe more so than others, but it's not, there's a different delivery than a lot of stuff that we see. So I hope that's there's a positive response to that.
Well, if I can just say super quickly, I mean, you know, I think anybody who watches this is going to take away something from it. I mean, when you've got the 22-year-old girl who's a fan, and you've got her dad who's a fan, and you've got a 15-year-old who's a fan, and you got the 12-year-old that's a fan. I mean, there's something in this for everyone. And I hope that anybody who comes to it just comes with an open mind, sees the great story, and doesn't check it off. Oh, this is thriller. Oh, this is a superhero. This is faith. Like, come to it as a story, because it's a good story and it has good morals and it's bringing a good message. You know, a message that I think, whether you come from faith or not, you'll appreciate, but so much more when you have the faith.
Yeah.
Well, on that wonderful note, I don't think I can end it on a better spot than that, guys. So I just want to thank all of you guys for coming in. Chato, who he disappeared, but you know, technical difficulties, it happens, but you know, we love him and he did a great job as well. So but thank you guys for coming on here and doing this and being a part of this program. And I'm looking really forward to seeing where we're going. Maybe we can get you guys back again for like when the season's over, and we can actually talk about some of the hidden stuff that's coming. So if everybody's watching on PureFlix, you're about this episode 4 and 5 are coming. So we're looking forward to it. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you at the next episode.
Tell your friends and family.